I will never forget the day I held my son for the first time. The overwhelming love, the pride, the feeling that my life was complete. My sister Amanda and I had always been close growing up, so I expected her to share in my joy. Instead, she planted a seed of doubt that nearly destroyed my marriage. She whispered that I should get a paternity test, implying my wife had been unfaithful. Years later, when she announced her own pregnancy, I made the same suggestion. I had no idea it would end her marriage. Before I dive into how my sister's words broke my heart, and what happened when she later got pregnant herself, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of real-life stories. Growing up, Amanda was only 2 years younger than me. Our parents always emphasized the importance of sibling loyalty. They would tell us family is everything. You two need to look out for each other when we are gone. This value was deeply instilled in me from an early age, and I took my role as her big brother seriously. I remember when Amanda was in 3rd grade and some kids were picking on her at school. I was in 5th grade, and when I found out, I marched right over to those kids and told them if they ever bothered my sister again, they would have to answer to me. It might not have been the most mature response, but it established that I would always protect her. Throughout our childhood, this dynamic continued. When she needed help with homework, I was there. When she had her first heartbreak at 16, I was the one who brought her ice cream and sat through romantic comedies to cheer her up. We shared secrets, dreams, and supported each other through the challenging years of adolescence. Even as we grew into adults, our bond remained strong despite our different personalities. I was more laid back and easygoing, while Amanda had always been more competitive and status-conscious. She became a marketing executive, always chasing the next promotion, while I was content in my work as an architectural designer, finding fulfillment in creativity rather than climbing the corporate ladder. When I met Jessica at a mutual friend's barbecue, something just clicked. She had this infectious laugh, and the kind of genuine warmth that made everyone feel special. We started dating, and within 6 months I knew she was the one. Jessica was a kindergarten teacher who loved children and had the patience of a saint. Her caring nature complemented my more practical approach to life. At first, Amanda seemed genuinely happy for me. She welcomed Jessica into our family gatherings, and even took her shopping occasionally. But looking back, there were subtle signs of her competitiveness that I missed. When Jessica would talk about her day teaching children, Amanda would smoothly redirect the conversation to her latest business achievement. When we announced our engagement, Amanda quickly mentioned her recent promotion, as if ensuring she still had the spotlight. Our wedding day was perfect. Jessica looked breathtaking in her gown, and I could barely keep it together when she walked down the aisle. Amanda was a bridesmaid, and gave a lovely speech at the reception, though she did manage to include several references to how she had approved Jessica, as if my choice had required her validation. About a year into our marriage, Jessica and I were thrilled to discover we were expecting our first child. The pregnancy brought us even closer together as we prepared for this new chapter in our lives. I painted the nursery on weekends, assembled furniture, and read every parenting book I could find. Jessica glowed with anticipation, her hand constantly resting on her growing belly. As Jessica's pregnancy progressed, I noticed Amanda's attitude shift. Her visits became less frequent, and when she did come over, her questions often had an edge to them. Are you sure you are ready for this? Or do you really think you can afford a child on your salary? Small comments, but they added up. The day Noah was born was the most incredible day of my life. After 20 hours of labor, Jessica brought our beautiful son into the world. I cut the umbilical cord with trembling hands, and when the nurse placed him in my arms, I experienced a love so profound, it felt like my heart would burst. He had dark hair like Jessica, and what I thought was my nose, though newborns are notoriously hard to match to their parents. The feeling of becoming a father was indescribable. Suddenly, I was responsible for this tiny human being who depended on me completely. The weight of that responsibility was balanced perfectly by the immeasurable joy he brought into our lives. When Noah was 1 month old, we invited family over to celebrate. My parents were besotted with their first grandchild, taking turns holding him and arguing over who he resembled more. It was during this gathering that Amanda dropped her bombshell. She cornered me in the kitchen while I was getting drinks. With a concerned expression that I now recognize as completely manufactured, she whispered, "Dean, have you thought about getting a paternity test? I am just saying, Noah does not really look like you." I nearly dropped the glasses I was holding. "What are you talking about?" I asked, feeling as if I had been punched in the gut. Amanda shrugged, her voice casual but her words devastating. "I just think you should be sure he is really yours. Jessica was away at that teaching conference 3 months before she got pregnant, right? I am just looking out for you." Before I could respond, she patted my arm and returned to the living room, leaving me standing there in shock. The seed of doubt had been planted, and despite my trust in Jessica, it immediately began to take root. The rest of the gathering passed in a blur. I could not look at Jessica without Amanda's words echoing in my mind. When she noticed something was wrong and asked about it, I brushed it off, claiming I was just tired. How could I tell her what my own sister had suggested? The days following Amanda's suggestion were some of the darkest of my life. What had been a time of pure joy became tainted with an unspoken question mark. I found myself studying Noah's features, looking for traces of myself, then feeling disgusted for doubting. I would wake up at night and stare at Jessica as she slept, wondering if she could have betrayed me so completely. The rational part of my brain knew this was absurd. Jessica had never given me any reason to doubt her faithfulness. She was devoted, honest, and transparent. The teaching conference Amanda mentioned had been a 3-day event, with 20 other teachers from her school, all staying at the same hotel. There had been group photos, daily calls, nothing suspicious whatsoever. Yet the emotional part of my brain could not let go of the question once it had been raised. It is amazing how doubt, once introduced, can grow like a weed, choking out rationality and trust. Jessica noticed the change in my behavior immediately. I became withdrawn, less affectionate. When she would ask me to hold Noah, I would do so mechanically, my mind elsewhere. Our easy conversation became stilted, filled with awkward pauses. One night, about 2 weeks after Amanda's visit, Jessica finally confronted me. She had just put Noah to bed and found me sitting in the dark in our living room. "What is going on with you?" she asked, her voice a mix of concern and frustration. "You have barely spoken to me in days. You hardly look at Noah. Did I do something wrong?" The genuine worry in her eyes broke something inside me, and before I could stop myself, I blurted out what Amanda had said. The words sounded even more horrible spoken aloud in our quiet home than they had in my head. Jessica's face went through a series of emotions: shock, hurt, and then anger. "You have been acting this way because you think I cheated on you, because your sister suggested it." Her voice rose with each question. "How could you doubt me like that? How could you let her get into your head?" "I did not want to believe it," I said weakly. "But she said Noah does not look like me," and I started wondering. "He is 1 month old," Jessica exclaimed, tears now streaming down her face. "Babies change every day, and even if he does not look exactly like you, how could you jump to infidelity? After everything we have been through together," the pain in her voice made me realize the magnitude of my mistake. I had allowed Amanda's poisonous suggestion to undermine the foundation of trust our relationship was built on. In that moment, I saw clearly how much damage had been done, not by any infidelity, but by the mere suggestion of it. "I am sorry," I said, reaching for her hand, which she pulled away. "I never should have let Amanda's words affect me like this." Jessica wiped her tears angrily. "It is not just Amanda. You chose to believe her over trusting me. You chose doubt over faith in our marriage." She slept in the nursery that night, leaving me alone with my guilt and regret. The next morning, we moved around each other like strangers, the easy intimacy of our marriage replaced by cold courtesy. I knew I needed to talk to Amanda about what she had done. I met her for coffee that weekend, my anger having built with each passing day as I witnessed the damage to my marriage. "Why would you suggest something like that?" I demanded once we were seated. "Do you have any idea what you have done to my relationship with Jessica?" Amanda had the grace to look somewhat embarrassed, though not nearly enough in my opinion. "I was just looking out for you," she said, stirring her coffee. "As your sister, I want to make sure no one takes advantage of you." "But where did this even come from?" "Jessica has never given anyone reason to doubt her." Amanda shrugged. "I just noticed that Noah does not really have your features." and Jessica was away at that conference. "Stop," I interrupted. "Just stop. You had no right to plant that seed of doubt. Jessica and I were happy. Noah is my son, and I never had any question about that until you put it in my head." "I am sorry if I upset you," Amanda said, though her apology felt hollow. "I just wanted you to be sure." It became clear to me then that Amanda's concern had not been sisterly protection at all. There was something else at play. Whether it was jealousy of my happiness, or some deep-seated need to create drama, I could not say for sure. But I knew that her actions had been far from well-intentioned. The damage to my marriage did not heal overnight. Jessica and I had to rebuild our trust slowly. We started seeing a counselor who helped us communicate better. Jessica expressed how deeply hurt she was, not just by my doubt, but by my willingness to let someone else's suggestion come between us. "If you had concerns, you should have talked to me directly," she said during one session. "Instead, you pulled away and left me wondering what I had done wrong." She was right, of course. My failure had been in not confronting the issue head-on, in allowing doubt to fester rather than bringing it into the light where it could be examined and dismissed. Gradually, we found our way back to each other. I made a conscious effort to be present with Noah, to bond with him without that shadow of doubt. I told Jessica every day how much I loved her and apologized for my lapse in trust. And most importantly, I set clear boundaries with Amanda. I did not cut her out of my life entirely, but I made it clear that I would not tolerate any further interference in my marriage. Our relationship became more distant but also healthier in some ways, with clearer boundaries and expectations. By Noah's first birthday, Jessica and I had largely moved past the incident. Our marriage was stronger for having weathered the storm, though. I never forgot the lesson about how easily trust can be damaged and how much work it takes to rebuild it. Life settled into a new normal for us. Noah grew into a vibrant toddler who definitely had my laugh and Jessica's creativity. My relationship with Amanda remained cordial but distant. We saw each other at family gatherings and maintained surface-level conversations, but the easy closeness we once shared was gone. About 2 years after the paternity test suggestion incident, Amanda announced she was getting married to Richard, a successful businessman she had been dating for about a year. Richard was charming, ambitious, and seemed genuinely devoted to Amanda. They made a striking couple, both focused on careers and social standing. At their wedding, I noticed how Amanda constantly compared aspects of her ceremony to mine and Jessica's. "We chose a better venue, did not we?" Or, "Our cake is from that award-winning bakery, not just a local one." It was as if everything had to be a competition, even on her own special day. Jessica, ever gracious, smiled through it all, though I could tell it bothered her. "Your sister really cannot help herself." "Can she?" she whispered to me during the reception. I just squeezed her hand in response, grateful for her patience. A year into their marriage, Amanda and Richard announced they were expecting their first child. The news came during a family dinner at our parents' house. Amanda made the announcement with her typical flair for drama, standing up and tapping her glass for attention. "Richard and I are giving you all another grandchild," she declared, emphasizing the word another, as she glanced at Noah, who was now 3, and playing quietly in the corner. "We are due in 7 months. Our parents were ecstatic, of course. My father immediately started talking about converting his home office into another nursery for visits, while my mother peppered Amanda with questions about morning sickness and prenatal vitamins. Throughout the celebration, I noticed Amanda watching me as if gauging my reaction. Was she expecting jealousy? Resentment? If so, she was disappointed. I was genuinely happy for her upcoming parenthood, despite our strained relationship. No child deserves anything less than full support and love. As the evening progressed, memories of Amanda's devastating suggestion about Noah kept surfacing in my mind. The pain she had caused, the doubt she had sown, the near destruction of my marriage. Jessica sensed my discomfort and kept a reassuring hand on my knee throughout dinner. "You okay?" she asked quietly at one point. "Just thinking about how things change," I replied, watching Amanda showing our mother ultrasound pictures. Later that night, as Jessica and I were getting ready for bed, she brought it up again. "I know what you were thinking about at dinner," she said. "I could see it all over your face. I sighed, sitting on the edge of our bed. Is it wrong that part of me wanted to say something? To make her feel a fraction of what we felt? When she suggested that test, Jessica sat beside me, her expression thoughtful. It would be human, she said. But would it make anything better? I knew she was right. Revenge would only perpetuate the cycle of hurt. It would not heal old wounds. It would just create new ones. I resolved to be the bigger person, to let go of the resentment, for my own peace of mind if nothing else. But that resolution was tested a month later, when Amanda and Richard hosted a dinner party to celebrate their upcoming parenthood. The evening was carefully orchestrated to showcase their perfect life, their newly renovated home, expensive wine-catered food. Amanda spent much of the night talking about their plans for the nursery, the exclusive preschool they had already put their unborn child on the waiting list for, and the maternity photo shoot she had booked with a photographer who apparently worked with celebrities. Throughout it all, Richard beamed with pride, clearly excited about becoming a father. He was a good man from what I could tell, hardworking, honest, devoted to Amanda, despite her sometimes difficult personality. As dessert was being served, Amanda made yet another comment, comparing her pregnancy to Jessica's. We are doing a natural birth at that new luxury birthing center, not just the regular hospital like most people. Something inside me snapped. The accumulated weight of her competitiveness, her past cruelty, and her constant need to elevate herself by diminishing others finally became too much. Before I could stop myself, the words were out of my mouth. "Hey Richard," I said, keeping my tone casual. "Have you thought about getting a paternity test when the baby is born? Just to be sure it is really yours?" The table went silent. Richard's fork clattered against his plate. My parents looked bewildered. Jessica tensed beside me, her eyes wide with shock. But it was Amanda's face that I will never forget. The color drained from it completely, her expression a mixture of disbelief, hurt, and rage. For a moment that stretched into eternity, no one spoke. "What did you just say?" Richard finally broke the silence, his voice dangerously quiet. "I am just suggesting you might want to be certain," I continued, unable to stop now that I had started. "I mean, Amanda was at that marketing conference in Chicago 3 months ago, right? I am just showing the same brotherly concern that Amanda showed me when Noah was born." Amanda stood up so abruptly that her chair fell backward. "How dare you?" she hissed, tears forming in her eyes. "How dare you say that in front of everyone, in front of Richard?" I met her gaze steadily. "How dare I? The same way you dared to suggest Jessica had been unfaithful to me. The same way you nearly destroyed my marriage with your poisonous insinuation. I am just returning the favor." Amanda fled from the room in tears. Richard, clearly confused and disturbed, excused himself to follow her. My parents looked at me with disappointment and shock. "Dean, what were you thinking?" my father asked, his voice heavy with disapproval. "Ask Amanda what she was thinking when she did the exact same thing to me." I replied, already feeling the hot flush of shame mixing with my anger. "She never told you about that, did she?" Jessica and I left shortly afterward, the evening irreparably ruined. In the car, Jessica was unusually quiet. I know I said before she could speak, "I should not have done that." "No, you should not have," she agreed. "But I understand why you did." She reached over and took my hand. "Just do not expect it to make you feel better. It will not." She was right, of course. The momentary satisfaction of watching Amanda's face, as her own cruel suggestion was turned back on, her quickly faded, replaced by regret. Not because Amanda did not deserve it, but because I knew I had just perpetuated a cycle of hurt that would ultimately damage our entire family. The aftermath of my words at the dinner party was swift and severe. Within days, I heard through my parents that Richard had indeed demanded a paternity test. Amanda had refused, initially outraged at the suggestion, which only deepened his suspicion. Their arguments became increasingly bitter, with trust eroding rapidly between them. Eventually, Amanda agreed to the test to prove her faithfulness, but the damage was already done. The test confirmed Richard was indeed the father, but the seed of doubt had grown into a poisonous plant that choked their marriage. Within months, they were separated, and by the time their daughter Sophia was born, divorce proceedings were underway. My parents were devastated by the family discord. They tried to mediate between all parties, but the rift was too deep. They never explicitly blamed me, but I could see the sadness in their eyes. The unspoken question, was this necessary? I asked myself the same question constantly. My revenge had gone far beyond what I intended. I had wanted Amanda to feel a moment of the pain she had caused me, but I never truly wanted to destroy her marriage or have my niece born into a broken home. Jessica, as always, was my moral compass. "You need to talk to her," she said one evening, about 3 months after Sophia's birth. "Not to justify what you did, but to try to heal this wound before it becomes permanent." I knew she was right, but pride and lingering resentment made it difficult to take that first step. It was Amanda who ultimately reached out, texting me to ask if I would meet her at a park near her new apartment. She had moved out of the home she had shared with Richard, downsizing significantly in the wake of the divorce. When I arrived, she was sitting on a bench, watching as Sophia slept in her stroller. My niece was beautiful, with a tuft of dark hair and chubby cheeks. Amanda looked tired, the polished executive persona replaced by a woman who had clearly been through a difficult few months. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat beside her, leaving a careful distance between us. For a while, we just sat in silence, watching a group of children play on the swings nearby. Finally, Amanda spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I understand now," she said. "What I did to you. I never really understood until it happened to me." I glanced at her, surprised by the admission. Amanda had never been one to acknowledge her mistakes easily. When Richard asked for that test, she continued, "It felt like he had slapped me. Like everything we had built together meant nothing compared to a moment of doubt." And I kept thinking, is this how Jessica felt? Is this what I did to them? Tears were streaming down her face now. "I am so sorry, Dean. What I did was unforgivable. I was jealous of your happiness, of the way our parents doted on Noah, of the perfect little family you and Jessica had created. But that is no excuse." Her honesty disarmed me completely. The anger I had been holding onto for so long began to dissolve, replaced by a profound sadness for all the pain we had caused each other. "I am sorry too," I said quietly. "What I did at the dinner party was wrong. I wanted you to understand how it felt, but I never intended to destroy your marriage." Amanda wiped her tears. "Richard and I had other problems. Your comment was the catalyst, but the explosion was coming one way or another. He never trusted me fully, always checking my phone, questioning where I had been. The paternity question just confirmed his suspicions that I was not trustworthy." She looked down at Sophia, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the adult complications surrounding her birth. "I just do not want Sophia to grow up with the kind of resentment and hurt that has marked our family these past few years." "Neither do I," I agreed, feeling a sudden protectiveness toward my niece. "Noah deserves to know his cousin, to have the kind of sibling-like relationship that we had growing up. Before all this." That conversation in the park was the beginning of a slow healing process for our family. It was not quick or easy. Trust once broken cannot be repaired overnight. But with time and effort, we began to rebuild our relationship on a more honest foundation. Amanda and I started meeting regularly, sometimes with the children, sometimes just the two of us, talking through years of competition and resentment. I learned about her deep-seated insecurities, her feeling that our parents had always favored me, which I had never perceived. She learned about the depth of the pain her words had caused, and the work Jessica and I had needed to do to overcome it. Jessica, with her enormous capacity for forgiveness, welcomed Amanda back into our lives gradually. She set clear boundaries, but also extended genuine compassion to my sister as she navigated single motherhood. The two of them eventually developed their own friendship, independent of me, built on mutual respect and shared experiences as mothers. As for Richard, he and Amanda eventually established a cordial, co-parenting relationship, though the romantic relationship was beyond repair. The irony was not lost on any of us. My marriage had survived the test of doubt that Amanda had introduced, while hers had crumbled under the same pressure when I turned it back on her. Through it all, I learned the profound truth that words have power far beyond what we might intend when we speak them. A suggestion once made cannot be taken back. Doubt once planted grows with a life of its own. And revenge, no matter how justified it might feel in the moment, rarely brings the satisfaction we expect. Today, 5 years after that fateful dinner party, our family has found a new equilibrium. Noah and Sophia are inseparable cousins sharing the kind of bond that Amanda and I once had. My parents have embraced their role as grandparents to both children with equal enthusiasm. And Amanda and I have found our way back to something resembling our childhood closeness, though tempered by the wisdom that comes from pain and forgiveness. I sometimes think about how differently things might have turned out if either of us had made different choices. If Amanda had never suggested that paternity test, or if I had chosen to let go of my resentment rather than seeking revenge. But I have come to believe that perhaps we needed to walk this difficult path to find a more authentic relationship on the other side. In the end, the lesson I take from all of this is about the fragility of trust and the strength of forgiveness. How easily we can harm those we love with careless words, and how much work it takes to rebuild what has been broken. But also how much richer life can be when we choose healing over harm, growth over grievance. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between revenge and forgiveness? How did you handle it? And would you make the same choice again? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more real-life stories about family forgiveness and finding peace after pain. Thank you for listening. And remember that even the deepest family wounds can heal with time, honesty, and the courage to choose a better path forward.